My sister's birthday dinner. My mom smirked and said, "All that money we spent on you is a waste." My name is Harper Vale. I'm 28. And if you think you know how this ends, stay tuned. I pulled out my phone, opened my banking app, and sent her $1. The notification pinged on her screen before I even spoke. "Debt paid," I said quietly. The table fell silent, except for my aunt, who burst out laughing. "Next time, don't even show up," she sneered, swirling her wine. "You don't belong here." I stared at her for a long moment, the hum of the restaurant fading around me. Then I lifted my glass. "To my aunt," I said, voice steady. "Toasting on my dime until tonight." A few people chuckled nervously. My mom's smile faltered. My sister kept her eyes on her dessert like if she didn't move, she wouldn't be part of the fallout. I took a slow bite of my own cake, savoring it, not because it tasted good, but because it was the taste of ending something. That night, I drove home through the freezing rain, headlights blurring against wet asphalt. I didn't cry. I didn't even feel angry. Just tired. Tired of being the family wallet, the quiet achiever, the emergency contact. Once inside, I sat cross-legged on my bed with my laptop open, the glow washing over my hands. One by one, I canceled every account tied to my name. The joint credit line, the auto payments, the family phone plan. Then I froze their cards, every single one linked to my information. When the last confirmation email came through, I stared at the words, "Action completed." For the first time in years, my world went silent. No buzzing phone. No new favor requests. Just stillness. And in that stillness, something inside me whispered, "They'll notice soon." They noticed faster than I expected. By noon the next day, my phone exploded with messages, notifications flashing like warning lights. "Mom. Harper, what did you do? My card isn't working." "Dad, why are you freezing accounts? That's family money." "Aunt Claire, fix this immediately. Your mother's embarrassed." I stared at the screen, letting the buzz fade. No panic. No guilt. Just quiet satisfaction. By evening, Mom called, her voice sharp, clipped, the same tone she used when I was 15 and late to dinner. "You think this is funny? I couldn't even pay for gas today." I leaned back in my chair, eyes on the city skyline through my apartment window. "You told me I was a waste, remember?" "I'm just honoring the sentiment," she scoffed. "Stop being dramatic. This affects everyone. You can't just pull the plug like that." "Actually, I can," I said softly, "because I was the plug." There was silence. Then, in her low, practiced tone, she said, "You're punishing us for a joke. You've always been so sensitive." Sensitive. The word that had been my label since childhood, the polite way of saying we can hurt you, and you'll still show up. I smiled bitterly. "If you ever decide to value me, you can start by valuing boundaries. Until then, good luck finding a new card holder." She hung up. An hour later, my sister texted, "You really went nuclear, huh?" I replied, "No." Nuclear would have been sending everyone the receipts of how much I actually covered. She didn't respond. That night, I poured myself a glass of wine and scrolled through my budget for the first time in years. My money, untouched, intact. It felt foreign and freeing. Then came another ping, a message from Aunt Claire. "Enjoy your little rebellion, Harper. You'll regret it when this family turns its back for good." I stared at her words and whispered, almost amused, "They already did." The next morning, my apartment buzzer screamed like an alarm. I froze mid-coffee sip. No one visits me unannounced. When I checked the camera feed, there they were, Mom and Aunt Claire, bundled in their self-righteous coats, standing outside my building as if they owned the sidewalk. I buzzed them in. I wanted to see the performance up close. Mom walked in first, her perfume, that expensive floral she could only afford because of me, filling the room. Aunt Claire followed, clutching her purse like she was entering a courtroom. "So," Mom started, dropping her coat onto my couch, "you think humiliating us is maturity now?" I crossed my arms. "You humiliated yourselves, Mom. I just stopped paying for the stage." Aunt Claire snorted. "We raised you better than this." Really? I tilted my head. You mean the years you reminded me I was an obligation, not a blessing? Her smile thinned. You're being dramatic. I walked to the counter, pulled open a drawer, and dropped a neat stack of papers in front of them. Every payment statement, credit history, and auto transfer they'd benefited from. For every birthday dinner, for every emergency, for every little crisis, I said evenly. I kept receipts. Mom glanced at the papers, jaw tightening. This is petty. No, I said, voice steady. This is proof. Aunt Claire's eyes flicked toward Mom. You really let her control everything? Mom shot her a glare. Don't start. They were unraveling right in front of me, arguing about control when all I'd done was remove it. Do you want coffee? I asked finally. Mom blinked. What? Coffee. It's the last thing you'll ever get from me. Her face turned crimson. You're cruel. I smiled faintly. No, Mom. I'm cured. She opened her mouth to speak, but I walked to the door and held it open. Time's up. They left without another word. When the elevator doors closed, the quiet returned, heavier than before, but finally mine. Still, a part of me knew this wasn't their final move. My family never left without trying to collect. For 2 full days, there was silence, the kind that feels like a held breath before something breaks. Then came the call from the bank. Ms. Vale, we just wanted to confirm, did you authorize a transfer of $4,500 from your secondary savings account? My pulse jumped. No, I didn't. The representative paused. It looks like someone attempted the transfer using credentials linked to your family account, but the system flagged it. I closed my eyes. Of course they did. When the call ended, I sat in the quiet for a long time. Then I opened my laptop and checked the logins myself. There was a failed attempt from my hometown, time-stamped 2:12 a.m. Mom's address. I should have felt angry, but instead there was just exhaustion, the kind that settles into your bones when people mistake your kindness for permission. That evening, I called Eli, my closest friend since college, a financial advisor who'd helped me set up those accounts years ago. Hey, he said softly. I saw the alert. You okay? I'm fine, I said. But I'm done playing defense. He hesitated. You want me to tighten security? No. I want you to help me end this legally. Within an hour, Eli connected me with Grace Reynolds, a fraud attorney who'd seen every kind of family implosion possible. I sent her the screenshots, the call records, everything. By the next morning, Grace had drafted a cease and desist order for financial harassment and unauthorized access attempts. I signed it electronically, my hands steady. She said, once they receive this, the bank will block all shared logins permanently. They won't be able to touch a cent tied to you. Good, I replied. Let them learn what silence without funding feels like. After hanging up, I sat on my couch, the city outside humming like normal life. For once, their chaos didn't reach me. Then, a single text buzzed on my phone from an unknown number. You'll regret this, Harper. We always take care of our own. I stared at it and whispered. Exactly. Take care of your own, finally. By morning, the text had spread like wildfire through the family grapevine. My cousin forwarded screenshots of Mom's latest group chat rant, a masterpiece of manipulation. She's turned against her own blood, Mom wrote. We gave her everything, and she's repaying us with lawyers. No one freezes their parents' cards unless they've lost their mind. They didn't know I was in that chat under a muted contact name. I watched the hypocrisy scroll by while sipping my coffee, amused at how predictable it all was. Then Aunt Claire chimed in. Maybe we should show her how it feels to be cut off. She thinks she doesn't need family? Let's make sure she doesn't. I laughed under my breath. That line, let's make sure she doesn't, was their battle cry. I screenshotted it and forwarded it to Grace. Within an hour, Grace replied. Perfect evidence. We'll attach this to the cease and desist follow-up. Their harassment trail is self-documenting. The power of paper, I thought. For years, I'd fought their words with emotion. Now, I was fighting with proof. That evening, I went for a walk downtown, the air sharp and cold, the sidewalks still slick from rain. I passed a family laughing outside a diner, their warmth cutting through the chill. For a fleeting moment, I envied them. Not for their closeness, but for how effortlessly they seemed to love each other. I used to think my family was fixable, that if I just worked harder, paid more, proved more, they'd finally see me. But that night, as I walked under the glow of streetlights, I realized something. You can't buy belonging. When I got home, I forwarded the legal packet to every relative in that group chat. No caption, no explanation, just the document. Then I powered off my phone, poured myself a drink, and whispered into the quiet apartment. Let's see who laughs now. It wasn't anger anymore. It was closure sharpening into peace, one form filed at a time. The silence that followed was almost eerie. No calls, no texts, no sarcastic family updates on Facebook. Just absence. 3 days later, my dad showed up at my apartment. No warning, no call ahead. He looked older than I remembered, hair grayer, suit wrinkled like he hadn't been sleeping well. He didn't even say hello. Just stood there, holding a folded piece of paper. Your mother got served, he said quietly. I know, I replied. He sighed and handed me the paper. It was a printout of my email to the family, the legal notice. She's humiliated, he said. You could have come to us first. I laughed softly. Dad, I did come to you. Every time you asked for help. Every time you told me to keep the peace. But peace doesn't exist when only one side's bleeding. He sank into the chair across from me. For a moment, I saw a flicker of guilt behind his eyes. We never meant to make you feel used. You didn't mean to, I said. But you did. He rubbed his temples. Your mother's furious. She's saying you ruined the family name. I leaned forward. Dad, the family name ruined itself. I just stopped funding the illusion. He didn't answer, just stared at his hands, as if searching for something to hold on to. After a while, he whispered, You always were the one who saw through everything. Something in me softened. Not forgiveness, not yet, but understanding. You could see through it too, I said gently. You just didn't want to. When he left, I walked him to the door. He turned once more and said, She'll never change, Harper. But maybe I can. It wasn't a promise, but it was something. After he left, I sat by the window, the city lights flickering like distant stars. For the first time, I didn't feel anger toward him, just a quiet sadness for how much he'd given up trying to keep peace that never existed. And beneath that sadness, a growing strength whispered, You didn't destroy the family. You ended the performance. A week passed before I heard from anyone again. It came through an unexpected source, a message from Paula, my younger cousin. Just so you know, your mom's spinning stories again. She's saying you drained her accounts out of spite. People are starting to realize it's not true, though. I stared at the text, a strange calm washing over me. Once upon a time, that kind of rumor would have wrecked me. Now, it just sounded tired, like an old script everyone was bored of hearing. That evening, I sat on my balcony with a mug of coffee, watching the rain smear the city lights into soft gold. My world was finally quiet, yet a small part of me ached. I didn't miss them, but I missed what family should have been. Warmth without cost. Eli called that night. His voice was soft. You've been quiet lately. What's going on in that head of yours? I think I'm grieving something that never existed, I said. A family that only lived in my imagination. He was silent for a moment. Then, grieving's good. It means you've stopped pretending. I smiled faintly. Guess so. The next morning, I received a thick envelope in the mail, my name written in my father's handwriting. Inside was a single note and a small cashier's check for $3,600, the same amount he'd once tried to withdraw. The note read, For what's owed, not for money, but for respect. Thank you for teaching me what it means to earn it. Tears stung my eyes before I could stop them. Not because of the check, but because for the first time in my life he saw me, not as a bank account, but as his daughter. I folded the letter, tucked it into my journal, and whispered, You finally paid attention. As I looked out the window, the rain had stopped. A soft light cut through the clouds, faint but real. It wasn't reconciliation. It was recognition. And that was enough for me to start breathing differently. 2 months later, the quiet didn't feel empty anymore. It felt earned. The calls stopped, the messages faded, and for the first time, my life belonged only to me. I'd moved apartments, a smaller space with warm light, a place that didn't echo with ghosts of old obligations. My new walls didn't know the sound of my mother's voice or my aunt's laughter dripping with venom. Just music, coffee brewing, and peace. One afternoon, while unpacking, I found my old family photo in a box, the one for my sister's 16th birthday. Everyone smiling, everyone pretending. I almost tossed it, but something made me pause. I slipped it into a drawer instead, not as a memory but as evidence. Proof of what I survived. That evening, I sat at my desk, wrote a single letter, and sealed it. It wasn't for them. It was for me, to whoever I become next. You didn't lose a family. You outgrew a performance. Love isn't measured in money transfers or silence for peace. You built something new, boundaries that don't need apology. Keep them. Protect them. HV. I placed the letter in the drawer beside the photo and smiled. For the first time in years, I felt like my story wasn't about revenge anymore. It was about reclamation. Later that night, my phone buzzed. A message from Dad. Your mom asked about you today. She didn't admit it, but I think she misses you. I stared at it for a long time before typing back. That's okay. Missing someone doesn't mean you deserve them back. He replied with a single heart emoji, his way of saying he understood. I set my phone face down and turned off the lights. Outside, the rain began again, soft and steady, like a rhythm I finally understood. I wasn't the daughter who begged for love anymore. I was the woman who learned that peace costs nothing, and once bought, it never needs repayment. I closed my eyes, whispered to the silence. Debt paid for good.